Today we're looking at the first ever patriotic themed superhero.
Debuting almost a full year before Captain America in issue number 1 of Pep Comics for MLJ Productions, the Shield was the alter ego of FBI agent Joe Higgins. As the Shield, Higgins possessed super strength, invulnerability, and great leaping ability. This identity was known only to FBI leader J. Edgar Hoover, who would dispatch the Shield to take down various threats to America.
What we're covering today is the first few adventures of the Shield. This is the Shield Golden Age.
J. Edgar Hoover dispatches Agent Joe Higgins to take down a terrorist cell that has been conducting attacks on various military installations across the country. Unbeknownst to Higgins, he's tailed by 2 foreign agents as he exits FBI headquarters. However, the bad guys don't know that Higgins is really the Shield. He takes down the 2 terrorists and finds a note from their leader, a man named Klotz.
Wow, the bully from Doug is really upped his game.
The note is for a meeting at a hotel. Higgins goes to the place and sneaks in after changing into his costume. He then sets up a listening device to record the conversation of Klotz and his men. Upon hearing the group's plan to assassinate the Army's chief of staff, the Shield uses an acidic concoction to break in and confront the terrorist cell. He then takes down Klotz's men and manages to grab some of the files detailing the group's plan. Klotz tries to sneak off after arming several explosives. However, the Shield is unharmed in the explosion, and he still has the documents. The Shield manages to land near Klotz just as he's getting into a getaway car. The Shield then manages to leap in front of the vehicle and apprehend the terrorist.
I should point out that most of these stories take place when the United States was in more of an isolationist mindset, so the Shield's actions are actually to prevent America from entering World War II.
Higgins is called in for his next assignment involving the disappearance of several oil tankers from the Puerto Rican coast, although for some reason it says Puerto Rico. Higgins boards a plane, which is immediately hijacked after takeoff. Higgins changes into his Shield costume and listens in on a radio communication to find out that the hijackers are in cahoots with the group behind the oil tanker thefts. The Shield takes down the hijackers and restores the plane's pilots before leaping in to assist a nearby oil tanker. He's a tad too late as a U-boat has hit the tanker with a torpedo. The Shield boards the U-boat and takes out the guards. He then leaps on board the tanker and takes down the ones taking hostages. The Shield extracts the location of those behind the tanker thefts and works with the tanker crew to get there. The Shield then sets himself on fire and tries to leap on board the enemy ship. However, he's immediately blasted with a paralyzation ray and brought on board. He then breaks free and takes out the bad guys. Finally, he blows up the tanker. This isn't the end of the attacks, though, as several cruise liners have reported being bombed in New York City harbor. The Shield takes possession of one of the attackers' mines and analyzes it, discovering that sound is actually what triggers the explosions. The Shield then spots one of the enemy planes flying by his lab window. He leaps onto the plane and slips in through the bomb drop. He then disarms the bombs and stays hidden as the plane switches to submarine mode after dropping its payload.
And I just realized what I said sounds like a poop joke.
The submarine plane lands at a large underground city. The Shield takes down one of the bad guys and steals his uniform. It's then that the group's leader, Count Zongar, arrives. Recognizing Zongar as a disgraced munitions magnate, the Shield makes his move only to get blasted by poison gas. Zongar then ties the Shield up and places him inside one of the mines. The Shield manages to break free from the mine after it is dropped into the ocean and into the path of a naval vessel. The Shield then makes his way to a radio station that has been secretly giving out information to Zongar. The Shield uses the radio to hit the same frequency to set off the explosives and destroys Zongar and his city.
Our next story involves another MLJ Productions superhero, the Wizard, alter ego of one Blaine Whitney, a man who possessed supernatural intelligence. Originally this was going to be a natural occurrence, however this was later retconned into actually being a superpower for him. Whitney was also part of a long line of descendants who swore to protect the United States of America whenever the nation would call upon it.
Joe Higgins hears a distant explosion and rushes off after changing into his Shield costume. He stops the bombers and bumps into their target, the Wizard. After receiving the Wizard's gratitude for his assistance, the Shield is given information about a possible attack on Pearl Harbor.
He might have been a little off on that.
Higgins is dispatched to Hawaii, where he finds the enemy planes flying over a naval base. He changes into the Shield and leaps into action. He climbs on board a battleship and commandeers the anti-aircraft gun. He then leaps onto a bridge and takes aim. The shield takes out a few planes, but a few manage to drop their bomb payload. The shield manages to interrupt one of the explosives, which turns out to be a gas bomb, which knocks out the shield. The shield is then taken hostage by the terrorists.
The terrorists in this story are from a fictional country called Moscow. In fact, all the terrorists depicted in this collection are from fictional countries. And admittedly, it's kind of refreshing as I don't have to deal with, horribly wrong ethnic cultural stereotyping.
The shield is taken by his captors and placed into a large cannon. However, he breaks free and manages to block an explosive shell just as it's being launched. He then moves on to the group's leaders, discovering a plan to destroy Pearl Harbor by causing a nearby volcano to explode and burying the base in liquid-hot magma. The shield takes out the terrorist leaders and radios word of the attack to the naval fleet. He then rushes off to stop the attack. He's too late as several of the bombs have been dropped into the volcano. The shield begins tossing boulders into the volcano in an attempt to block it up. The ground gives way beneath the shield's feet and he winds up landing on a small ledge near the lava. He then gets rescued by a helicopter and taken back to the base. The terrorists launch one more attack involving magnets on a submarine being used to tow several battleships towards the volcano. The shield dives in and blocks the magnet long enough for the others to escape the ship. He then breaks into the submarine and takes out the terrorists. The shield then returns to the mainland where he meets up with the wizard once more to locate the Moscovian leaders. He leaps onto their building but lands on an electrified piece of floor. The terrorists then lock up the shield in a metal coffin and then toss it into a ravine. The shield manages to break free though and winds up stopping the plotted attack during the State of the Union address.
The final story of this collection gives us the origin of Joe Higgins, the Shield.
In 1916, Army Intelligence Officer Tom Higgins receives orders to guard a munitions shipment after several previous shipments had been stolen. Higgins pays one last visit to his son Joe before leaving, promising to work on an important chemistry experiment upon his return. Unfortunately, Higgins is kidnapped by a group of terrorists attempting to find out what his experiments are while also destroying the shipment. Higgins breaks free but is killed when the shipment explodes. Tom Higgins is blamed for the explosion, leaving Joe to vow to continue working on his father's experiments under the tutelage of Tom's good friend J. Edgar Hoover. Joe becomes a top-flight chemistry student, graduating at the top of his class, and then sets about trying to recreate his father's experiment, which was kept under the acronym SHIELD.
It turns out that SHIELD is an acronym for Sacrum, the center of the spine where ancient cultures believed the soul was housed, Heart, which pumps blood throughout the body, Innervation, aka the nervous system, which carries energy throughout the body, Eyes, Lungs, both which are pretty self-explanatory, and Derma, aka skin, which protects all of the inside organs from danger.
Joe covers himself in chemicals designed to enhance each of the body parts in the acronym. He then bathes himself in x-rays, and after some testing, the shield is born. Joe then went to J. Edgar Hoover and revealed the results of the experiment. This was fortunate, as the FBI had recently tracked down Hans Fritz, the man who framed Tom Higgins. Joe was appointed to the FBI and partnered with another agent named Juju Watson. The two get their first assignment involving John Ingot, leading steel manufacturer, who has been reported missing by his daughter Ruby. Ignat was kidnapped by his security guards in an attempted mutiny. Higgins and Watson accompany Ruby to the steel mill, where they get overwhelmed by the mutinous security guards. The three are then taken to a melting cauldron. Joe gets tossed in first, but the fire only burns away his suit, revealing his shield costume. Juju Watson is knocked out and tossed towards the cauldron. However, the shield manages to save him. Unfortunately, the shield has to relent when Ruby's life is threatened. The thugs try a second time to kill Higgins, but he breaks free again as Watson comes to and the two take down the bad guys. Higgins and Watson's second mission came after the body of an unidentified man was fished out of the ocean. A Washington district attorney believed it to be the body of an informant who was going to testify against mafia boss Lou Zefke. The two agents were joined by the informant's daughter, Elia Morgan. Unbeknownst to everyone, their conversation was being overheard by a rat working for Zefke. Higgins and Watson exhume the body, and Elia is able to identify it as that her father's. How exactly, I don't know, given the state of decomposition. However, on the road back into town, the trio gets run off by Zefke's hoodlums. Watson is knocked out again, and Higgins manages to escape while Elia and Watson are taken away. Higgins changes into a shield costume and uses the sewer system to track Zefke's men down to a nearby railroad, where Watson and Ilya are tied to the train tracks. The Shield then manages to stop the oncoming train and then tangles Zefki's car in the train tracks. He then takes the hoodlums to court and has them testify against Zefki, sending the mobster away forever.
And so ends the first adventures of the original patriotic superhero, the Shield. The Shield would continue on through the years, with people actually inheriting the mantle from Joe Higgins, who, in a unique rarity in comics, was actually allowed to age gracefully. However, the Shield would not exactly become the flag bearer, pun not fully intended, of MLJ Productions. Instead, it would wind up going to a character that appeared in a Shield backup story.
Issue 22 of Pep Comics contained a backup story introducing readers to a wayward red-headed teenager from the town of Riverdale named Archie Andrews, along with his friends Jughead Jones and Betty Cooper.
Obviously, MLJ Productions would eventually go on to rechristen itself Archie Comics thanks to the popularity of the Riverdale gang. Anyway, back to the Shield. How is it? Well, for the most part, it does make for a nice, good, quick read, with the exception of one story, which we'll get to. And the artwork is actually a pretty decent representation of Golden Age comics artwork, most of which can be kind of hit or miss at times, but this is a better example of it. And like I said before, it is kind of nice to see a pro-America comic that doesn't rely on, crass, unpolitically correct stereotyping of other cultures. That being said, this isn't exactly deep reading by any stretch of the imagination. You're not going to change the world by reading this comic at all. And to be honest, the whole last story, which is the origin of the Shield, just goes on way too long. I mean, we really don't need to cover the whole Juju Watson cases. I mean, it really should have just ended with the Shield being hired by the FBI. I think that would have made a much more appropriate ending. But with that in mind, I did not really hate reading this book at all. I'm going to give the Shield Golden Age a B. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Hey guys, want to recommend a book to be placed in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box? Well, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcap productions, or just check the link in the description below and see how you can help make that happen.